You're gonna
All right. Good morning. What time?
Good morning. Good morning.
Good
You're
morning.
gonna stop for
Good
siren.
morning. Yeah, of course. Good morning, everybody. The last few days of Nisan, we are learning Leilu Nishmas Bas Yefega Bas Yisrael, Levi Ben Yosef, Frida Sima Bas Yitzchak, Shoshana Reisel Bas David Dov, Yitzchak Aryeh Ben Nachum, Azriel Ben Yosef Tuvia, and Necha Bas Ephraim Zalman Berochel. This week is sponsored by Mindy Barad in memory of her mother, Ita Bat Tzadok Levi, in memory of the Shani family of Sarah's Abba, Jay Litvin, Olav Hashem, and by the Batsheva and Zevi Reinitz, memory of Aliza Rachel Bat Chaim Tzvi. So today we have something, we have a very special morning, obviously, because of Yom HaShoah. And I wanted to learn with you about a story. I wanted to share basically this a fascinating story of the Chassidim, the Breslover Chassidim in the Warsaw Ghetto, which already, just saying that, should raise some questions, because where is Warsaw? Poland. Where's Breslov? Ukraine, right? It's Ukraine. We're talking a while ago. So when did this happen, that suddenly there's a whole Breslov movement in Poland on its own is a whole story. That's not so simple. It's incredible. In the last few years, as you see here, these are just a few of the books that have been written about Breslov in Poland. Just these Sfarim itself, and it's all attributed to one person. And this one person is going to be the person that we're going to be really receiving most of our energy from this morning in Yom HaShoah, and I want the learning to be in his memory. And it's this very, very holy and inspiring Jew who's been very, very inspiring to me for many years. And his name was Rav Yitzchak Breiter. That's a picture of him and one of his sons. I don't know which son. And obviously, if I'm picking up his picture and showing you his name, saying his name, he was killed in Treblinka, which is everything we were learning about last night. Rabbi Yitzchak Breiter and his son. So I'm going to keep this here. I want his face and his energy to be with us this morning. And he's a very, very passionate individual who is responsible for Breslov Hasidus spreading to Poland. How did that happen? So the story, and we're going to get towards the end. I'm going to try to finish by the siren at 10. I'll try to, because I think it's very important we just finish then. Even if we don't, obviously we'll stop. But the story is that this Rabbi Yitzchak Breiter, who came from a very frum and Hasidic home, spent time in a certain Beit Midrash at the beginning of the 20th century, the Beit Midrash of a big tzaddik named Rabbi Tzadok HaKohen of Lublin. Have you heard of him? We spent the whole year learning Rabbi Tzadok HaKohen of Lublin. Rabbi Tzadok HaKohen of Lublin, as we all know, was a student of the Mea Shiloach, and Rabbi Tzadok passed away, some say 1900 or 1901. Not clear exactly. But right there, the beginning of the turn of the century, is when Reb Tzadok HaKohen of Lublin passes away. And he had a Beis Medrash. And his Beis Medrash was known as the Beis Medrash of the Kohen of Lublin. It was known. That was his Beis Medrash, the Beis Medrash of Reb Tzadok HaKohen of Lublin. This Rabbi Yitzchak Breiter, can you see in the back? Can you see? Were you able to see? Was it clear enough? Okay, so this, I don't know, something about his face, his eyes are haunting, mamish haunting. This Rabbi Yitzchak Breiter was a searcher. He was mechapes emet. He was looking for emes. And he found his way to the Beis Medrash of Reb Tzadok HaKohen of Lublin. This is a few years after he passes away. This is now winter of 1905. In the winter of 1905, he's running around the Beis Medrash, and there's all these different svarim that he's seen, that he's gone through, but then he opens up a sefer, and he reads the following lines. He reads the following, it says, late at night, in the Beis Medrash of Reb Tzadok HaKohen of Lublin. He opens up a book. He has no idea whose book this is. Maybe it was maybe for some reason the cover wasn't clear. I don't know exactly what the story was. But he reads the following lines, and the lines say like this: Veda, she'al yedei hanigun shel hatzadik, shehu bechinas Moshe, through the nigun of the tzaddik, who is like the aspect of Moshe Rabbeinu, the leader, hu ma'ale et haneshamot min ha'apikorsut hazot shel hachalal hapanui shenaflu l'sham. I'm just going to literally translate this, even though it's a big, big sugya. But that the nigun of the tzaddik can raise the souls of those that have fallen into the world of apikorsut, that is a result of the vacant space, of the chalal panui. I feel like giving a shiur just on these two lines to explain it in depth, but we wouldn't have any time to go into the story of the Breslover Chassidim in the Warsaw Ghetto. But we'll do the best that we can to combine both. He reads these lines that through the nigun of the tzaddik, a person can be pulled out of dark, deep, confusing places in his life, places that people fall into, due to the reality that Hashem created the world through a chalal hapanui. What's chalal panui? Vacant space. So what does that mean? So that's a basic concept that we've learned a few times based on the Arizal. That in order for Hashem to create this world, what did he have to do? He had to make tzimtzum. He had to make space so that the world could be created, and that's called chalal panui, so to speak, as if vacancy, so that people could exist and we wouldn't just, lead batel be'oroid barach. And many of us get lost. It's a very, very deep teaching in Rabbi Nachman Likutei Moharan, but many people cannot put their finger on the source of their confusion in this world. They had a good upbringing. They have more or less everything that they need. They have a lot of love. They have good things happening to them. But something still has led them to be stuck in this place called the Bilbulim of total confusion. And Rabbi Nachman says there are neshamas that are, they're basically, it's a result of being stuck in that place. That's the reality of Chalal Panui. You're freezing, huh? Okay, you could either turn it up or I need some airflow. Or turn the fan lower. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, 22 is good.
For me, 18 is good. So yeah, that's fine. Yeah, yeah,
And Lori has his
yeah. Okay. So I'm thinking that this Rabbi Yitzchak Breiter came from let's say he came from a stable home, a good home. Things were pretty much okay. And maybe he was searching and felt such a longing and a depth for something and he could never put his finger on it. And then he comes across a sefer that says the lines that tzaddik is able to raise people out of places of such confusion and heresy that is really a result of the way Hashem created the world, the Chalal Panui. And we're not going to get more into that, but just know that he closed this book and he could not believe what his eyes saw. All he knew was, this tzaddik that wrote this knows who I am. Who in the world is this? And he kept on reading these words over and over and over again. He closed the sefer, he put it in a certain place that he thought was safe and protected in the library. And of course, when he came the next day to look for this sefer to go back inside, he couldn't find it. And this happens many times. And for a few weeks, he's losing his mind. He can't believe it. He's, what's going on over here? And finally, after he would nudge people in the Beis Medrash for what's going on here, someone finally showed him and said to him, here. And he put another sefer that wasn't the sefer that he was looking for, but it had similar lashon. It's a sefer called Par Paraot LaChochma, which is a perush on Likutei Moharan. And the more he was asking, more and more, who is this? What's going on over here? They realized that, who had all of Rabbi Nachman's Sfarim and learned from them and even wrote a certain type of a perush on one of his books, Sefer Amidus, was Reb Tzadok Cohen himself. Reb Tzadok Cohen had all of Rabbi Nachman's Sfarim. It's a whole story. His connection to Rabbi Nachman, not in life, because Rabbi Nachman passed away 90 years before Reb Tzadok died, but still there was a kesher there. And I'm trying to really make this story much more really, this is a whole sefer on the life and the Torah of this tzaddik Rabbi Yitzchak Breiter. But he must have read in one of the pamphlets that he saw that there's a place called Aleph Vav Mem Nun. That's where this tzaddik is buried. So, but he didn't have the vowels, so he kept on calling the place Omen. All right, so he's walking around Omen, Omen. And then one day, one person heard him talking like this, saying Omen. He's like, what do you mean Omen? No. He thought it was a place in Yerushalayim called Omen. Someone told him, no, bro, it's not. There's a place in Ukraine called Uman, and this is where they're living. This is where this tzaddik is buried, and this is where a few of his followers that are still around are. Now, remember what Breslover was called at this time in Jewish history. They were called the Toita Chassidim. Toita means dead. Why? Their Rebbe is dead, and they didn't have another Rebbe. This never happened in any other Chassidus before. There's no such thing. It was before, I don't want to say the Babich Rebbe, but you understand what I'm saying. It never happened before, such a thing. So he hears that there are people like this, couldn't believe it, so he sends them a letter. He figures out a way through a bookstore how to send these people a letter and saying, please, I read a few lines of something. Is there anything else that available? And he sends it before Pesach of that year, 1905. And then he goes to his in-laws for Yontiv. And in the bookstore in Uman, he sent it to the bookstore in Uman from the bookstore in Lublin, where he was living. A letter gets to this bookstore in Uman. Now, the bookstore in Uman, you probably think, wow, it's a Chassidish Yid, tons of farm. It was like a Judaica shop, and the guy that was running the store wasn't from. But Uman, it was Jewish life there. And he didn't know what this was. All he said was, Yitzchak Breiter, Lublin, sent to Uman. He doesn't know who he's sending it to, but he's saying, send me something. And there's a whole story how one chassid that walked into the store after Pesach to get something, the owner of the store said to him, I don't know, there's some letter here that some guy from Poland sent. You want it? It was unheard of. The Breslovers of Uman thought it's only us that know about Rabbi Nachman, and there's nothing else going on here. The guy this chassid opens up the letter, couldn't believe it, and correspondence begins. Then Rabbi Yitzchak Breiter receives a letter back to the bookstore in Lublin a few months later, and basically it was filled with more and more pamphlets and words and Torahs from Rabbi Nachman, until eventually the Sfarim started coming through. But one of the lines that one of the Chassidim told him, that wrote to him, he said to him, Im yizke lavo lemachanenu, he's reading this letter from one of the grandsons of Rabbi Nachman. It was a big tzaddik named Reb Shimshon Barsky. And this Reb Shimshon Barsky wrote to him, Im yizke lavo lemachanenu, yavchin ben ha'emet lasheker. He'll be able to differentiate between emes, between truth, and lies. And that struck him so deep that eventually, 2 years later, I believe it was in 1907, he sets out on a pilgrimage with a few of his chevra. 7 of them went to Uman for Rosh Hashanah. These are times where it was unheard of. This is before the First World War. It was a completely different world. But the shock of the system was, to the Breslover Chassidim in Russia, in Ukraine, said, Rabbeinu reached Poland? We thought it was just us. And this Rabbi Yitzchak Breiter continues to be the middleman, the back and forth. Eventually, all of the Sfarim that were out back then reach Poland. He sets up shop, and he becomes this very, very inspiring young figure to many people, where he's revealing to the Chassidim of Poland, to Yiddish in Poland, there was this tzaddik, his name was Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, and it actually starts to take off. And they eventually set up a shtibel there, a Breslover shul, a shtibel, and he starts gathering to him all these different young people that never heard anything like this before from all of their history. I'm going to read for you just something that was said about him, about this Rabbi Yitzchak Breiter, and what he started doing in Poland. Whoever knew this man and spoke with him was drawn to him beyond their ability to understand what was going on. His words were divrei chen. There was magic in his talk and the way that he said everything. And all he wanted to do was just to bring people close to the Torah of Rabbi Nachman of Breslov. Everything he said hit straight to the point. And they went into the hearts of anyone that came in touch with him. And he was such a chacham. But still, even though he was such a chacham, he acted in the most simple way in all of his avodas Hashem, with his learning, with his davening, and specifically when people saw how much he took hisbodedus seriously. And he awakened and aroused many people to start doing hitbodedut. And the greatest pele, the greatest wonder about this person was that even though he learned a lot every single day and every Shabbos from the Sfarim of Rabbeinu, and everyone drank with thirst everything he had to say, and he would say a lot of chidushim while he was speaking, the greatest wonder was that in his own eyes, he was mamish nobody. And he would make sure everyone understood that it's not just that he thinks that about himself, but that he really is just a simple person that got lucky. And then, basically, even though he was a Rav and he could have been a Rebbe, people called him Yitzchak. They didn't call him Rav Breiter, Reb Yitzchak. People called him Yitzchak. He was older than all of them. He was learning with them. They were receiving from him, but they still called him Yitzchak. Once in a while, some people called him Reb Yitzchak because they couldn't control themselves. But really, to him, in his own eyes, it was bichlal, not an inyan at all. And he's gathering people and he's making it bigger and bigger and bigger until we reach a situation that by the mid-30s, by the late 30s, Breslov in Poland is mamish fire. It's getting bigger and bigger. There are thousands. Now, obviously, the reason why we don't really have a masoret of Breslov in Poland is because besides a few of them that escaped to Eretz Yisrael, Breslov in Poland was completely demolished. They were all killed. So before, you know what, I'm going to do like this. I want to read for you a description. I came across something yesterday. This is an article that was published in 1943 I think the newsletter was called Hatzofeh, of someone that gave testimony to what was going on in the Breslover Shtibel in the ghetto. Okay, this is Pesach, 1943. So I'm just going to read a little bit from here, and I'm just going to translate it. Breslov Shtibel on Leil Yantiv is on fire. Bnei Chorin Gmurim Mehalchim Kan. Complete and total free people are walking around here, and no one can understand how this could be. It's true, they don't look as kovedik as they looked in the past because of the lack of kovedik clothes. And obviously, what can they really eat? But hasimcha bime'onam. But the happiness is in their ma'on. It's like in their ma'on means like in their own palace. There's simcha. From all corners of the city, people came to daven with them Leil Yantiv. And chavurus gathered together. And they're sitting around and they're spending time talking with each other. But what's amazing is that no one's talking about the war. No one's talking about anything besides the Kedusha of the Chag. They're speaking about Sipurei Ma'asiyot, the stories of Rabbi Nachman, memories. They're looking into the Sfarim. They're humming Nigunim. And all the little kids, most of them are called Nachman or Nasan, right? Are all running around with such exuberance and excitement and fire in their hearts and souls. And when they sing Vehi she'amda lavosenu, shelo echad bilvad, v'akadosh baruch hu matzilenu min yadam, they keep on repeating that nigun stronger and stronger, with more and more strength and more simcha, till they start dancing. And no one else in the ghetto understands what's going on in here. How could this be? The Breslovers merited that their makom tefillah became a drawing place to many to many non-Chassidim, but those that needed to believe that something greater than what they see in front of them is possible. Some do come just to observe these, to observe these weird Chassidim that can't stop singing and dancing. But the Chassidim that know that they're being observed, it doesn't bother them at all. Adarabah, let them come, let these people look at us, and let them listen. Maybe their heart will be open, and they'll receive life as well. Like has happened many times in the ghetto, where people wanted to come and ridicule them for what they were doing, and yet something happened and got into their heart and soul, that even if they knew that they weren't going to spend much more time in this world being alive, they may as well spend their last time in this world being alive. It's gewalt, huh? This is what this headquarters in the Warsaw Ghetto was providing for many different people. Harikud ve'azemer me'atrim et atfilah. When the davening starts, the dancing and the singing takes you into a whole new world. The tefillah goes up with dvekus and with nigunim that come from the nusach of Uman, because basically these Chassidim that were there had been traveling back and forth up until World War I. They were going back and forth from World War I. The gates were closed, and then what they started doing was these Chassidim that found themselves in the ghetto together, they had set up shop in Lublin. That was the famous kibbutz, the famous gathering of Breslover Chassidim would gather together in Lublin every Rosh Hashanah. At a certain point, Reb Meir Shapira of Lublin, Rosh Yeshivas Chachmei Lublin, housed the minyan of the Breslover Chassidim in his yeshiva.
We stayed at his hotel. I mean, we stayed at what was left of the yeshiva.
Of the yeshiva, correct. That's where people stay over there today. When I first went there, it wasn't under Jewish ownership, and it was a school for Polish nurses. When you went? You remember?
98.
I went 95 or 96 first time. It was still under Polish ownership. Yeah. You saw it there. No. Yeah. People forget that's because on these trips we were filled with so many emotions and so many. But that's what it was back then. And we said it was so bizarre. We sat in the back of what was Yeshivat Chachmei Lublin, and it was a school for Polish nurses, and we're trying to imagine what it looked like now. Those of you that have been there know the place. It's so awe-inspiring. Malchus. Mamash.
Wait, it's the fact that he allowed them to daven there is a big deal, right? It was an
Huge. No. He was a chassid. He was a Chortkover chassid in Meir Shapir Lublin. Chortkov comes from Rizhin originally. It wasn't exactly like a chassidish yeshiva. Like there are other yeshivas that were chassidish, but he himself was a chassid. Yeah, Reb Meir Shapir of Lublin. His whole life story is a whole ma'aseh too. He passed away without any children. It's a whole story on his deathbed where people told him to look at all the talmidim that came through here. These are your kinderlach. But it's an amazing thing. It is a chiddush that he had the Breslovers daven by him, not only because that was different than what the yeshiva was doing, but Breslov was unheard of. No one, it wasn't a thing. Not only did he allow them to daven in there, he went up to the Amud to be chazan for Musaf sometimes on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. On Rosh Hashanah. The second day Rosh Hashanah he was chazan there. So they were already established as a group that would get together in Poland, and and by then they had their own nusach. And the truth is, you know something amazing? You know the nusach that we have that Reb Shlomo said to every bracha, ay, 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 ti-da-da-da-da-da, ti-da-dee-da-dum, ay-da-dum, ay-da-da-da. That comes from there.
Oh, wow.
Why? Whatever, we're completely going, it's okay. Moishele Good Shabbos, right? The whole story. Good Shabbos, Good Shabbos. Moishele he comes from a very big Chassidish line. His name was Reb Moshe Heschel. He comes, if you've heard of the Chassidus called Kapichnitz, he was the brother of the Kapichnitzer Rebbe. They come from the line of Avram Yeshua Heschel, who was the Apter Rebbe. It's a big Chassidish family. But he got turned on strong to Rebbe Nachman. And he would go to this kibbutz in Lublin as well and learn, right? And when he met Reb Shlomo and his twin brother when they were little boys and taught them this nigun, Reb Shlomo said, where's this nigun from? And he said that the older Chassidim that would come to this gathering, meaning that they're already carrying the Masoret of Rabbi Nachman for many years, they said this was Rabbi Nachman's nigun that he would use for davening. Dai 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 dai. It was learned from this kibbutz in Lublin, and then given on to the next generation. So, I mean, many Breslover researchers have tried to research the authenticity of that because it's not found in other traditions that this was Rabbi Nachman's tune, but that's what this Moshe Heschel told Reb Shlomo. So, just to end here, from this newspaper article from 1943, the Breslover Chassidim are going deeper and deeper and repeating over and over again the words of their Rebbe. They keep on looking inside the Sfarim, finding new ways to understand what the Rebbe said. Here in Warsaw, in the middle of the horrible dark gullus, the nigun of Ein Shum Yeush Ba'olam Klal is being sung here louder than ever. Now, this is really something else. There are a few documentations of what the Breslover Shtibel in the Warsaw Ghetto looked like, but all of them, and some of them are different, but there's one main thing that they had written there on the wall in a huge, massive banner. So, and I want to just tell you what was written there. So, you've heard of Emanuel Ringenblum. That's the name of the person that was Achrai for the Onek Shabbos archives. So he kept a diary, and we have a lot from him describing what Jewish life was like back then. And he writes in February of 1941, he says, by the Teuter Chassidim, right, the dead Chassidim, it's funny when a deadhead becomes a Breslover Chassid, he stays in the same family, you know. Those of you that have no idea what I mean, means you need some Jerry in your life, whatever. So by the Teuter Chassidim, right, and he says on Rehov Novolofia, on the Novolofia Street, there's a huge banner, and it says there, Gewalt Yidden, seid sich nicht miyayesh, which means Yidden Gewalt. There's no room for despair. The Yidden Ayudim Rokdim Sham Kmo Lifnei HaMilchama. Says the strangest thing. In this place, in the ghetto, the Jews are dancing there like they would dance before the war. Adam shebito meta alav yom kodem rakad lemacharat acharei tefillah. A Yid whose daughter was killed the day before is dancing the next day after davening. Now here is another edut of a Yid named Levik Halprin. He put out a book called B'Kedusha B'Gvura, and he also refers to that sign, and he says, Gewalt Yidden seid sich nit miyayesh. Yes, in this language, the Yidden of Warsaw were screaming while the Warsaw Ghetto uprising was taking place as well. These words, Yidden seid sich nit miyayesh, he says, is what fueled the Yidden that were part of Mered Ghetto Warsaw. They would take this krazah, they would write it on stickers, they would put it on posters, they'd write it and put it on pieces of paper and put it in their pocket, and it helped the people that were at the time believe that it's worth trying to fight. Did any of you see the documentary on the uprising with David Schwimmer? It's called Uprising. Phenomenal. Important. Very important. If there's anything you're going to watch today, there's plenty of edus that'll crush your bones. But if you want to get a little bit of like, wow, there were Yidden that stood up there, you definitely should try to watch this. I saw it years ago, and it filled my heart with so much pride. So he's saying over here that Breslover, that poster, that banner that was hanging on the shtibel there, that really gave the Yidden there the koyach in the ghetto, limrod, to rebel and to try to do something, try to make something of it. So this Yid that was walking around there was wondering to himself, what does this word Gewalt mean? Why does it say Gewalt Yidden? What does Gewalt mean? He says Gewalt means Netzach. It means eternity. It means victory. Lo pam achat Netzach, not just one victory, ela shivatayim Netzach, but sevenfold victory. The Yidden there, they got access to guns. The Yidden, they had a few bullets. They had a few grenades. And they used them. They shot. Sometimes they would hit. And the Yidden in the Warsaw Ghetto would hit their targets. And blessed be every single bullet that was able to reach the heart of a Nazi. But with a much bigger and deeper bracha, do these words really reach us? Gewalt Yidden, zit sich nit miyayish. What does Gewalt mean? Gewalt means not just one victory, it means 770 victories, 77 victories. It means 7,700 victories. It means Emuna ben Netzach Yisrael. That's what just seeing that banner would cause Yidden to feel. Netzach, that there's going to be a Nitzachon. Of course, the horrible Germans, Yimach Shemam, what they would do is that they would always take, first, they would take the Yidden that were giving emotional support to other Yidden. They were the ones that were taken first. Rabbi Yitzchak Breiter, our Kochav of today, the one that caused this fire in Breslover in Poland to burn, the Nazis knew that if they take him out, the rest will be much easier. And they took him. He was one of the first Yidden to be taken out of Warsaw Ghetto and sent straight to Treblinka, where for a few weeks he was there. Some say a few days, and according to what we learned last night, it would make more sense that he was just there for a few days, if even that. And he was murdered there with his family. A wife, I think it was 5 or 6 children as well. He was one of the first. So, with the time that we have left, and there's a lot more details that we could go into, basically after that, after they took him out, it was the Breslover, the whole fire, everything was going on. It wasn't that they lost hope, it's that then they started carrying everyone out of there really fast, and they got rid of the Breslover Yidden in the Warsaw Ghetto were killed faster and faster. Again, like I said, before the war, a few escaped and reached Eretz Yisrael. There was a little bit of correspondence going on from within the ghetto and outside, so we know about a few things that were happening in the Breslover Shtibel, like we saw right now. But for the most part, and that's why all these books are coming out now, that whole world of Breslov, Polish Jewry, was completely wiped out. Completely wiped out. But Baruch Hashem, we have the Torahs. And the Torahs are Netzach. The Torah is there forever. What I wanted to do with you, what time is it?
10 to 10.
10 to 10. Okay, let's see if we could just do one thing here. This is a beautiful letter. We have a lot of letters that Rabbi Yitzchak Breiter would write people throughout the years, and those correspondences are just so beautiful. And I found this letter in 1929, and I think this can give us a lot of kivun for a day like today. Like, what do we do with all this testimony besides saying, we'll remember? It's amazing how we see that. Are there enough down there? Okay. So, we see that this concept never again is, it's frightening living in the times we're living in. Because never again, the more we said never again, and we thought that was a message to the world, it's not happening. Never again is not happening, and never again. But like I told you so many times, that one time during a concert in the 80s, Reb Shlomo said on stage, everyone asks me, what's the difference between you and Rabbi Kahana? And he said that Rav Kahana says never again. He says, I also say never again, but I say it a little bit differently. I say like never before. The Yiddishkeit has to be like never before. Never again, if you're so concerned with that the Goyim will get the message, you'll lose focus on what really has to take place inside of us. which is that Yiddishkeit has to be like never before. So I think that this piece from Rabbi Yitzchak Breiter will help us tune in really strongly to what like never before has to be on level of emuna. This is a letter that he's writing to a friend, one of his best friends, like you see on the top of your Kvod Achi v'Yedid v'Machmad Nafshi, Kamar Rabbi Yitzchak Meir. There was a Yid named Rabbi Yitzchak Meir Korman, I think his last name was. That he was very close to. And he's trying to give him chizuk to not give up hope over davening that he doesn't see happening. Many of us get stuck in places of, I'm davening for something and it doesn't seem to be working. My davening isn't working. How many people have ever experienced that in this room? Okay. My davening's not working. Right? Avram Avinu alav hashalom odiya lakol ki tefila mo'elet tamid. What did Avram Avinu let the whole world know? That davening always mo'il. Now, mo'il doesn't mean work necessarily. Mo'il means does something good. Ki hu haya rosh lama'aminim verosh lamitpalelim. He was the first real believer and the first one that davened. V'kol ha'alam sachku alav. And the world laughed at him. Be'omram, aderabba, mimcha nivakach shetfilah einena klum. Saying, really, you want us to believe from you in the power of davening? You're actually a good example of someone that shows us that davening doesn't work. Why? Exactly. Ki kol ha'olam yesh lehem banim bli tefillah. The whole world, everyone's bringing children to the world and they're not even davening for it. V'ata mitpalel kol kach yamim v'shanim harbe ve'ein lecha. And you've been davening for so long and you don't have children. Now, who else in the Torah could we say should probably not be the master of teaching prayer? What's the one, Moshe, what's the one thing in the world Moshe Rabbeinu asked for?
To go to the land.
What's the one thing in the world Moshe Rabbeinu wasn't given?
The land.
And what is Moshe Rabbeinu teaching us in Parshat Vayetchanan? He's saying Vayetchanan al Hashem, he's letting us know, and I davened and I davened.
500
and I davened non-stop. I couldn't hold back. And all the Mefarshim are wondering, Moshe Rabbeinu, you're trying to instill faith into Am Yisrael before you die. Why are you reminding them and giving such a great description of that it didn't work? What kind of teacher are you, right? What kind of teacher are you? So anyway, he's sticking here to Avram Avinu, Rabbi Yitzchak Breiter. Right? אתה מתפלל כל כך ימים ושנים הרבה ואין לך. אבל הוא ענה להם שהוא עברי. He said, guys, you don't get it. I'm an Ivri. What is an Ivri? So Ivri literally means, what does it mean? In the one hand, it means a Hebrew, but what does the word Ivri come from? I'm on the other. I'm on the other side of. It's not the way you guys understand things. Me'ever. I'm on the other side. Ki hu einono mitpa'el me'ochachat hachushim. He's not so impressed by the proof of senses, meaning he's not impressed by what you see in front of you to answer you. אבל האמונה אומרת שתפילה מועלת, והוא אוחז באמונה, והוא שוחק מהפרקטיקה של החושים אשר בשקר יסודן. He laughs at nature. He laughs at the practical reality of that says, if this isn't happening, that means so-and-so. Okay, that's the practical nature of our senses. That if something doesn't happen the way that we understand it to happen, or should happen, Avram Avinu was able to laugh in its face. Because, tachlis, maybe he was very old. But an old man is still able to somehow, without getting too graphic, he could obviously still produce zera. The real thing was, how old was Sarah? Sarah was 90, right? And she already was talking about the fact that she's already past that shlav in life. And he looked at that in the face and said, I know that's what nature says, and I know that that's what reality dictates to us. I laugh in the face of that. That to me is not a proof of anything. V'sof kol sof, and at the end of time, kasher nolad lo ben chacham al yedei tefillah, they finally had a son, ubeyitzchak yikareh lecha zera, nitgala shehem, hainu kol ha'olam, lo yehu lahem banim. He says, when Yitzchak was born, you know what? And the Yitzchak was so kadosh v'nora. And the birth of Yitzchak brought to the world so much beauty and so much light. You know what it proved? That all those people that had children, they didn't really have children. I have a child. Ki im holidu, you all, holidu chayot ra'ot dorsot v'torfot. You gave birth to Vilda Chayas. Ze holid Amalek, ze holid Eliphaz. You all gave birth to Vilda Chayas, right? I gave birth to a real boy, to a real son. וגם חיות רבות ביער מולידים, אבל אין יכולים לכנות אותם בשם בנים. A ben? That title, that's attributed to my son. אבל הוא הוליד בן שממנו יצא זרע השם, העובדים אותו כל ימי עולם. I gave birth to a son, and through this son there'll be dorei dorot of Yidden that'll have to go through their Akedos Yitzchaks, like my son will have to go through, and yet they'll fully believe in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. ובכן גם אתה חזק תתחזק, כי לא יעזוב ולא יתוש, בדבר אחד מדבריו לא ישוב ריקם. Get strong. Don't leave. Don't abandon. Everything that was ever promised us will happen. And then he has the cry. We didn't even speak about this, but Yitzchak Breiter tried to make Aliyah. He tried to come to Eretz Yisrael. He wrote tefillas about this. Many letters describing his pain, his agony over it. He couldn't get out. And yeah, af shenisharti b'chutz la'aretz, even though I'm stuck here in chutz la'aretz, v'libi alai davai, and I'm so sad. Ma she'aretzenu muchrevet kol kach ma'pra'im v'ashodedim, that this country I'm living in is completely, or maybe he's talking about in Eretz Yisrael, is abandoned from the kedusha that it awaits. Im kol zani ma'amin ki bo yavo zmani, I believe my time will come lehitaken. V'lashuv lashevet be'eretz ha'chaim, to come and sit in the land of life. V'lavod sham et Hashem kasher im libi, and to serve Hashem with all of my heart. Yehi ratzon sheye'amen hadavar b'mheira amen. If you ask Rabbi Yitzchak Breiter right now, so do you think God let you down? He would say, you're sitting here 80 years later learning my Torahs in Eretz Yisrael. Same thing with the Piasetzner Rebbe. Ask the Eish Kodesh. But specifically, I'm talking about on Yom HaShoah, I'm saying, you go to, so did God let you down? So did he not? It's like, listen, eventually I would have died anyway, right? So we'll just end with the banner in the Warsaw Ghetto. Gewalt Yidden, a Yid never ever gives up hope. They may have been killed, but you and I look at ourselves and the choices we made in life and the gates Hashem have opened for us to do in our life, and we see be'emet la'amito ein shum yeush ba'olam klal. And we give thanks and tribute to all the tzaddikim that in the darkest places in their life, we're just trying to instill a little bit of hope and faith. Not necessarily that everything was going to be okay, but that the Ribono Shlom is running the world, especially when we can't understand it. And that they succeeded in. That they succeeded in. And we're all living proof to that. Each of us here is a living proof to that. At Afghan Yom HaShoah, I feel like it's a day to replug in stronger than ever to the facts on the ground of the reality that we're dealing with in our lives. That we are all living proof that all their Torahs, of the especially tzaddikim that were killed, are emet and they're chai and they're kayam la'ad. And in their merit, we should delve deeper into their words, like we did briefly today, and give them nachas. And when Hashem sees that we're going beyond against nature, because nature is showing us the opposite, that Hashem should have Rahmanas on all of Am Yisrael, and bifrat on those that days like today make it so hard to believe, and make it so confusing, that in the merit of those that are doing everything they can to hold on to the words of tzaddikim and tzadkanios over the years, there should be a Rahmanas coming down from Shamayim, of making it easier and better and sweeter and smoother for so many Yidden that are still suffering. And there's a lot more to learn about this tzaddik, Rabbi Yitzchak Breiter. And as you see, these Sfarim alone are just about Breslover Polish Jewry, specifically also in the Warsaw Ghetto. We should also have in our schools to learn, to take more and more time into learning about how Yidden held on, and how every time we learn about Yidden that held on, that didn't make it, we smile and say, but look, your avoda, your tears, they bore fruit. They bore children. Maybe not physical children, but we're holding on to your avodat Hashem. We're holding on to your hardship, and we're doing everything we can. We're doing everything we can to make sure that all of your tefillahs to make sure your tefillahs that maybe the world says, look, it didn't do anything. Give out, it did so much. And that's why whenever we mention the name of the Piasetzner Rebbe in this shul, it's like, or anywhere in the world, but befrat in here, I just feel that more and more and more the emet is revealed to the world, that emet will last forever. And sheker may seem like it lasts forever when it's in front of your face, but we should be dvukim ba'emet, and Hashem should have Rahmanas on all of Am Yisrael, and heal all the wounded hearts and souls. And Hashem knows, and we know, that the only way that could really be fully healed is only with Mashiach Tzidkenu, She'yitgaleh Eleinu Memash Techef Umiyad Bezrat Hashem. Okay. Have a meaningful day, everyone.
Unbelievable.